Okay, let's get to the hate list. Sam Darnold, Geno's replacements in Seattle. You mentioned, Connor, that Geno threw 15 picks. Wouldn't be shocked if Sam Darnold throws 15 picks in this Seattle offense.
I would probably take the over on that, honestly, if they let him throw a lot. And there's just a lot going on here, right? They need help at wide receiver even after getting Cooper Kupp, because we're going to talk about him in JSN. It's kind of weird. They still need a real perimeter target unless you're banking the house on MVS. You could argue the interior of this offensive line needs to be fixed across all three spots.
Yep.
I mean, I think they need a center. I think they need a new left guard. We'll see what Anthony Bradford could do at right guard. Not an elite pass protector, more of a run blocker. Darnold is a guy. The story is the same all the time. When he's under pressure, things get out of control. So Seattle really, really needs to and they have the draft capital to do it. But this line has got to look different after the draft, Lawrence.
I mean, they give the second most quarterback pressures last
Right.
year. They have to fix this line, but how much fixing can they even do?
Yeah, and you
be
talked
healthy,
about
too.
the interceptions. Sam Darnold threw 12 of them. The season was so great that we don't talk about it much. And a lot of folks, we tend to talk about how he ended the season, but there was a stretch, weeks 5 through 10, where he threw 6 touchdowns and 7 interceptions. He was QB 25 in fantasy in that time. But it's like the next 8 games, he went crazy. The first month of the season, he went crazy. So it was that little middle part of the season where it's like, oh, man, Sam Darnold. But then he got back to balling again, and we forgot about it. So it's like with this team, with this line, like, how many of those weeks do we get versus how many of those great weeks will we get?
On that, Lawrence, the Detroit Lions in Week 18 dropped about 7 Sam Darnold interceptions as well. It could have been a lot worse just on that game.
Just everywhere you point to is a downgrade, right? KOC to Clint Kubiak as a pass caller. I'd argue that is a downgrade. Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison, T.J. Hawkinson to JSN and Cooper Kupp. That is a downgrade, right? Playing indoors in Minnesota, playing outdoors in Seattle, that is a downgrade. So in terms of atmosphere and in terms of what we think is pace of play, like the only upgrade is to his pocketbook, right? His bank account. You know, the man got paid, God bless, but just in order to be an elite fantasy quarterback, you have to run or throw touchdowns at a high pace. He's not going to run. So can he throw touchdowns at a high pace? And I don't think so. Cooper Kupp, we hope he stays healthy, but certainly no guarantee there. And then it gets pretty thin after JSN.
Yep. Yeah. All right. Well, Lawrence, we talked about Justin Fields having a fairly high floor, but also a high ceiling. A guy who's got no floor and no ceiling is Anthony Richardson, who may be in a quarterback competition with Daniel Jones. You are the Anthony Richardson whisperer.
There could be nothing more truer than saying no floor and no ceiling. Like you couldn't have put it any better. In the way, Matthew, the way you put this together in the beginning of explaining this is what it is. Like, you don't like if you have Anthony Richardson in Dynasty, if you're looking to, maybe get him now in the double-digit rounds of your fantasy draft because people might be sleeping on him. Well, now you have to think about that, and that makes, because you have to think about it, your value goes down. And because they added Daniel Jones, someone who has similar skill sets, although I don't believe the running ability is the same. Anthony Richardson ran for 500 yards in 11 games, so that's like that's the part where you say there's no ceiling. But because they have Daniel Jones in the room now, it creates some questions.
Yep. Connor, I'm still buying Anthony Richardson stock because 2 things. One, I don't think any quarterback got more screwed by their wide receivers last year than Anthony Richardson with all the drops to a comical extent, particularly in the games against Detroit and New England. And then I thought after he came back from the benching, I thought he played materially better. And it was against some bad defenses, but in particular that game against the Jets, he flashed a really high level.
Where the way the game was called was phenomenal. Like, you saw the red zone running ability. You saw some throws down the field. We saw Alec Pierce really kind of find it last year. So I'm split with this one because it's the reverse. It's like the inverse Justin Fields. You like Fields now, not because you think he's a great quarterback, because he's starting. And when he starts, he is a fantasy viable, like Matthew said, low-end QB1. With Richardson, you don't know. I kind of lean into it that maybe you get him at a discount because I think it's easier to start the season with Anthony Richardson than it is with Daniel Jones and then go, oh, this isn't really going the way we hope. Let's go back to Anthony Richardson again. Like, how many times can you pull that string?
Yeah.
Yep.
So
Do you think Matthew?
But the argument is just in terms of, did free agency help or hurt a player's fantasy value? And adding Daniel Jones hurt, and
that hurt his value.
In the offseason, the Colts have done two things. They've said Anthony Richardson is not guaranteed the starting job, and they brought in somebody who viably could start for the job. So it's just his fantasy value, I would argue, is worse today than it was 2 months ago.
Yeah, it's just like you said earlier, Daniel Jones, because he was literally doing nothing. Now he has the chance to start. Yeah, his fantasy value is higher now than it was 2 months ago.
Or lower. It costs you less. If you draft it today, you can get Anthony Richardson cheaper than you could 2 months ago.
Yes, definitely.
Yep. Would you take Anthony Richardson over Drake Maye, who's our next quarterback on the hate list? There's been some rumors linking Stephon Diggs to New England, which would help the Drake Maye situation a bit, but still he is relatively devoid of weapons.
Yeah, I mean, but if I had to draft today, and it depends on where I am in a draft. Like if it's my number 2 quarterback for upside and it's best ball, I'd go with Richardson because I think there's more of a ceiling there. But if it's just like for my number 1 quarterback, the one thing I do know is that Drake Maye is going to start every game. Barring injury, he's going to start every game. He's going to get you some points with his legs. And yeah, maybe they add Stephon Diggs. The reason Drake Maye made the hate list is because they haven't added anyone, right? I mean, they've given this kid no weapons at all. And Stephon Diggs would be an upgrade, but like that's almost damning with faint praise, right? I mean, so you're telling me the best wide receiver in the Patriots next year is going to be a wide receiver who's over 30 coming off of a massive injury? Like, in his third system in 3 years? Like, you know what I mean? Like, and listen, we love chief ball catcher Stephon Diggs here, friend of the podcast. We've had Steph on the show. We like him. We root for him. When he's right, he's right. But just, we don't know where he is in the recovery from that injury. It would be his third offense in 3 years. The Patriots, all I heard at the Combine was that they were going to be, very aggressive in the wide receiver market.
Tried.
And they tried, and they came up short. They just weren't able to get
added
anyone.
a couple of veteran offensive linemen.
Mac Hollins, like when Mac Hollins is your big signing. We like Mac Hollins, but,
I think they draft a running back, too.
Yep.
Hey, it's Matthew Berry from NBCSports.com and RotoWorld.com, and I want to thank you so much for watching whatever it is you just watched, or if nothing else, being too lazy to click out of the autoplay after this video started, after whatever it is you actually wanted to watch finished. But now that you're here, I'd like to take a moment here to ask you respectfully now, okay? I'm asking you respectfully to subscribe to the NFL on NBC YouTube channel. You'll get the latest RotoWorld fantasy news headlines, all sorts of great shows, including my own Fantasy Football Happy Hour. So go subscribe now. Again, I'm asking respectfully.